Welcome to another episode of Travels with Charlie, Vermont Politics in Real Life. Today's topic, we're talking about Act 46 and the merging of school districts. As many of you know, Act 46, passed in 2015, sought to bring down education costs and improve quality of education by combining districts into larger, more cost-effective units. Joining me in the discussion today, thank you for coming, gentlemen, Paul Jewett. Paul's a former Newbury School Board Chair, and Marvin Harrison. Marvin served on numerous boards and committees, too many to mention here today, and associated with education and workforce development. Thank you both for being here and being part of this discussion. Let me just throw it out to both of you today. Isn't bringing down the cost of education in Vermont a good goal?
Sure, if that could happen, but
yeah.
it didn't come close to happening here. No. So far, you know, maybe it's going to happen somewhere down the line, but
have any of the schools that have been, participated in mergers, have they seen any cost savings at all?
I haven't heard of that.
No, I haven't either.
No.
And I think this was one of our major concerns when we felt that we needed to try to keep this merger from happening, that we didn't really believe that costs were going to go down. In the 20 years plus that I was on, I don't think in any year that we had any more than a 3% increase in the budget. And that was on a $2 million budget, or less than $2 million. And in the last 2 years, we saw 11.5% increase on a $16 million budget, and we're looking at another 8+% increase this year on now it'll be over $17 million.
So what you were doing in the past was really what the ultimate goal was.
Right.
Exactly.
And now with the forced merger, it's not happening.
Right.
No.
Why do you think it's not working? I mean, in theory, if you look at it, you go, wow, we consolidate, we're all under one roof. You got to be saving money, yet here in Newbury, as well as in other communities that have been forced to merge, they're finding that it's not working. Why do you think it is, Paul?
Well, I think one of the reasons I got involved in the system in the first place, when Marvin talked to me about it back in 1996, was I believed, okay, if you're going to have people that are taxpayers who have children in the community and really care about the school, how are you going to have a better system than that to make decisions and how to spend money? Because you're going to be the ones answering, and you're also going to be paying the tax bill.
Right.
So I thought that was a really fair and equitable system. What happened is when this changed, we went from approximately 14 board members between the three schools, between Newbury, Bradford, and Oxbow, and that went from 14 to 4. So now we had 3 people here that were managing a $2 million budget, and that went to 4 people managing a $16 million budget, and 3 schools, 2 elementary schools and a high school, which was absolutely ludicrous to think that those people were going to be able to do that. The other thing that's really gone away now is that we no longer have the ability to make change quickly.
And that's one of the big issues, that we've heard right along with you arguing, is that you lose local control.
And wasn't, for so many years, everybody said, well, there's no local control in education. I mean, it's all done through the state or whatever.
Sure.
And there's an awful lot that's mandated by the state, but there's an awful lot that's done locally too.
Right.
And we were, exemplars of that here. When we had a vote of the community before this merger to say, how many people in Newbury, we had a town meeting, filled that hall, had a discussion. I mean, 117 people were against this merger, 17 people were in support of it.
I was going to ask you, so here in the community, I mean,
oh, it's huge. It's huge.
There's very little support.
Oh yeah,
Very
little.
A few
Yep.
teachers.
Those that support it, what is their reason?
Well, there was, I think, a number of it was represented by teachers, and we talked a little bit earlier about this. There was also some concern, and we've seen that come to fruition.
So again, they're dangling that carrot in front of them and thinking that it's going to get better.
Well, and in all reality, it got a whole lot better in terms of financially and health insurance and all of those things for teachers.
Sure.
But the other thing that we found now is that if you're a teacher in one of the local elementary schools or even the high school, you used to have a local board and be able to talk to them and say, hey, we think we need X, Y, or Z fixed, and we could put people in a room and make a decision to fix it. Now that's gone.
The central is that, we had the same thing over in these communities forever we had a Department of Labor office and unemployment, community action. We had all sorts of state, resources over here that one by one they've been chipped away with centralization. And now it's in Barry or in White River Junction, and people who need services can't travel to those places. Our central office, our central supervisory union office is the same way. I mean,
Yeah.
we now have, you know, the bureaucracy there is just
One of
keeps
the
on-
other things that we hear about with mergers is that, well, you know, for one town they may benefit, but another town may not benefit from it. And you know what I'm talking about? If we merge and, you know, I got a lot of debt on my side, and now we've merged and I bring it over to you. In fact, just before we merge, I think I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna buy a bunch of stuff. And now we're all merged, and all of a sudden, you know, the party that Charlie Papillo had, you guys gonna help pay for it.
Sure, yeah.
So-
we're paying for it.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. in this
Yeah,
case.
well,
And-
that's not right, is it?
No, and we kind of expected that there would have been more of an outcry from the neighboring towns saying, wait, this isn't fair.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Marv and I were sitting right beside each other. We went to a budget meeting, the first budget meeting, and as it turned out, the larger town packed the meeting a little more than we did, and very quickly said, we don't really want to talk about it, let's call
Well,
for a
if
vote.
you're sharing their debt,
Yeah.
why would they
Yeah.
care?
There wasn't 30 seconds of discussion about the budget. Somebody just immediately said, let's call for a vote, and I was like, oh my God!
You're trying to divorce yourself from this merger, and the way the rules are written, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not even allowed to do that, are you?
No, I believe we're not right now. And I guess somewhat the hypocrisy of this whole business is that we understand that schools that voted for the merger and wanted it to happen, that now aren't happy with it, are being given the opportunity
To petition,
to
at least.
petition
Yeah, yeah.
to reverse that. But the ones that were forced into it are being excluded from that opportunity. So we
that's
need
not-
to get
that's not
something
fair.
changed. No, it isn't fair.
So is anything being done to change that, so you at least have an opportunity like the other schools have had an opportunity to?
We heard today that there's been some discussion with with someone from the legislature, and they're trying to draft something to do that. So that's the first I'd heard of that, but yeah. That
So
would be
there is
good.
some hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was under the impression that once we were forced into the merger, we had to work with the process for a year, and after that year was done, that there was a process available to petition so that we could dissolve it, or at least go back to the fact that put the local boards back where they were before. That's basically all we're trying to do, is just go back 3 years and put the situation back where it was before.
Yeah.
And there's none of the things that were promised us by the Act 46 have come to fruition, and we've given it almost 2 years now. And it certainly doesn't look like it's going to change any. And we're really concerned that the quality of education at this school and maintaining a good staff and keeping the number of students in here for this school, that we're going to be able to do that, because an awful lot of things are working against us right now.
Paul, you moved here how many years ago?
30 years ago. Yeah.
And was the school an integral part of your decision?
Absolutely. I remember driving up right across the street to that store and getting out of the car and looking across and asking somebody what this building was.
Yeah.
And they told me it was the elementary school, and I said, wow.
What do you think that does to this community, the loss of this school? What do you see if the school were to close 5 years, 10 years from now? What happens to the town?
You know, it's the largest employer, right, Mark? I mean,
Yeah.
in the town.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I think it would be devastating to the town. And fortunately, at least geographically, the way it is set up right now, Newbury's in a good position because they're dead center between the two schools.
Right.
So the other issue that we talked about back with the forced merger was Newbury should be safe because there's no room in the other schools to take Newbury students. If anything, we were looking about
Bring some of them here.
bring some
right?
of them here.
Yeah.
And because we have some room and they don't.
Yeah. I think we're pretty lucky, guys, that no one's checking IDs today, because it says from 2 to 12 years old. So.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we're accused of being in that age.
Guys, I'd like to ask you just one thing about, you know, where you go forward from here, litigation. What are you doing right now? I mean, what's the next step Other towns have been able to get out. You can't because it was a forced merger, and that's the way it's written. Maybe there's some hope that statute can change, but in the meantime, what do you do?
Well, I think the first thing we're trying to do is to get a petition together in town here to, that's properly worded, that's a part of the problem, to have Newbury first vote, and it has to go through the select board. Newbury voters first vote to say that we want to, extricate ourselves from this forced merger. And then where it goes is unclear because the state, the legislature has to deal with it. And we're calling on the legislature to deal with this sooner than later, so that we
And they've got a lot of things they're dealing with.
yeah, but this shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah.
Man,
No.
Yeah.
This should be pretty darn. I mean, it should be a slam dunk. They've got a mechanism for towns that weren't forced to merge.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't it be the same mechanism for towns that were forced to merge?
Well, guys, this is the part of the program where it always gives me great pleasure and fun to present a magic wand. As I mentioned in our previous episode that we filmed, we were able to acquire
Whoa.
a real magic wand,
Whoa.
which I can hand to you individually. You can wave the magic wand, whatever you wish for, we hope that you get. Don't waste that wish. There you go.
Do I have to say it out loud?
You got to say it out loud. Yeah, this isn't like a.
You're not blowing
it's
out
not-
a candle or
It's not
anything.
like. It's
Anybody
not
got a
like a
candle?
birthday wish. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I wish that we had 3 boards and 3 districts, and that things were the way they were 2 years ago, and that it could happen sooner than later.
All right, my wish is that in about 8 weeks, we would have a special session of Congress at the State House. Everybody would vote unanimously that they made a mistake and we were going to change this and put the language back in that we need to put things back the way they're supposed to be.
I like it.
I'm all for that. I'll host it.
That's fine, I'd love to have you host it.
Let's go for it. Once again, I want to thank my guests for being with me today. Of course, Marvin Harrison and Paul Jewett, and really enjoyed being here today at Newbury on the Green. It's a beautiful place. I want to remind you that you can catch more episodes of Travels with Charlie, Vermont Politics in Real Life, on Facebook and YouTube. And I'll see you in my travels.
And I'll be hanging
I gotta work.
around, covering lots of ground. If you'd be so kind to share what's on your mind. It's time well spent talking presidents. Though we may not agree, let your thoughts run free. You can have your turn if you feel the burn.